come to order. Have the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Did you get the roll call? We've got everybody here.
Carl Hayes.
Here.
Dave Amspoker.
Here.
Scott Brackett.
Here.
Charles Burrows.
Here.
Mike Finnegan.
Here.
Charles Gerlach.
Here.
John Stutzman.
Here.
And we have a quorum.
All right. Those wishing to address the Airport Advisory Commission need not request permission in advance. Action taken to resolve the public comments will be limited to directing staff to study the matter or rescheduling the matter for consideration and decision at a later time pursuant to ARS 38-431 et al. Do we have anyone that wants to make a comment? Okay. On the minutes, anybody have any corrections or revisions? Everybody's happy. Do I have a motion? To accept the minutes. A second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We gonna have any report from Bennett?
Actually, Bennett's better half, no pun intended, is here. Lisa will make the report.
That you?
Lisa.
You want me?
Oh! Gee, I hadn't heard that quite label yet, but that's fine.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just to start off, the Arizona Commerce Authority and ADOT grant for 3 roads are now with engineering, and the engineering plan should be done in the middle of February, and they hope to start construction in March.
This is on what project? Right here. It should be green. Okay. Which project was that?
For the 3 roads, the grant for the 3 roads,
Oh, yes.
transport, and yeah. Yes. So engineering has those plans right now. As far as land sales, parcel 2 UEB site, it's 1 in 18 acres, was auctioned in January 2nd at 3 p.m. and the appraised value of $40,000. And there was 1 qualified and winning bidder, and that was Interstate Group. Interstate Group has been operating a manufacturing plant located at 4400 Interstate Way since 2002. Interstate Group has been looking to expand their footprint in Kingman Industrial Park with the purchase of a vacant building located at 5005 North Olympic Drive. Parcel 2 UEB is adjacent to the property at 5005 North Olympic Drive. This land sale will enable Interstate Group to expand the newly purchased building in the near future. There are 11 other projects that are in the site selection process in the last 5 months that have been submitted, either land or property. From those, we have had 3 site visits to the Kingman Industrial Park. The Shock Center, you all know the Shock Center. We are currently in the process of removing the 2 modular trailers. We should be starting with that demolition here in the next 2 weeks. As far as rail, the rail update, in November we serviced 151 rail cars. to park customers. We had 255 storage cars on hand. And as far as the airport website and marketing, the website is in process now. Bennett and I are in process of doing the navigational web linking to it now. So, and we added 6 more companies to the monument sign last week. And that's it.
You have any questions?
Question?
I have a question. Is it the 5005 that you mentioned for address or whatever? Is that on the north side?
North Olympic. Yeah.
North, okay.
Any other questions?
Do you know when you're going to be fully up and running on the website?
Anticipating at the end of February. Should be good to go.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
That wasn't too hard, huh? Okay, the airport staff report.
All righty, based aircraft, and actually, you should all have a packet, double-sided, that has my report and numerous other things, some of which were repeated, so apologize for that. So 96 plus or minus, 169 stored airplanes, so that would be Cassie, plus a DC-8. We're not sure who that belongs to, but we will find out, and they will get a bill. Aviation fuel, you'll note in the second paragraph down there, the November numbers. We're waiting on December. We'll have those hopefully here shortly. But again, you can see the trend, which is sort of all over the place totally. And again, on the second page, you get into the financial update for this year. And I'll state here that I'll be meeting with Tina to where we can put something together that's a little easier for you all to follow, where encumbrances and expenses are tallied together. I find this a little difficult, and I think at the last meeting it was outlined that it's a little obtuse. So we're going to see if we can't do a better job of making this easier to read. Revenues year to date, 740,000 roughly. Revenues in December, actually almost 141,000. Expenses year to date, 427,000. And again, expenses in December, 62. Like I say, these numbers are all over the place. And then encumbrances, and again, I'll end up talking to Tina and see if we can't make this to where it's a little more, well, it's still government, but where it's a little more.
We don't have to play it as a.
Yes. Yeah, a little easier to read. So those are the numbers. The runway grant, I think all of you have heard me talk about that. We were one of 20 airports that applied in state. Of the 20, only 2 got grants, us and Prescott. We didn't pull any political strings. Prescott did quite the dog and pony show with their congressional folks from D.C., and there were other airports that were attempting the same thing and didn't get the funding. So again, kudos to us for getting the supplemental grant. At present, the schedule's been sent off to the FAA. Surveyors are being scheduled as we speak. We have a new grant person, engineering person that is, with the FAA. They're brand new. They come from Western Power, I want to say WAPA. So it'll be interesting to see what his focus is liable to be. Typically, they bring in people and move airports around about every 5 years. Our planner is still Jared Raymond, which is a good thing because Jared's quality. Taxiway Bravo, I have the grant. It's all filled out. I'm in the process of putting a draft report together to take to the city council for approval. Again, that's a design grant for Bravo to basically rebuild it. I'll be working with FAA and ADOT in regards to some environmental concerns, we're going to call it. ADOT's now using the same environmental review that the feds are, and that could cause a little confusion. So we'll be working that through. Master plan meeting, the consultant continues to work that. We should have our next tentative meeting in late April or early May. Airport development maintenance, you can see we've been busy. The Dross site coring is complete. They have a couple employees up here that showed up just about a half hour ago, or maybe about an hour ago. They're going through more results on their corings, testing, retesting. They'll put a report together, and then they'll send the report off to Department of Justice, and then we'll get into a back and forth on that. And again, that won't happen. I don't anticipate a result from that this year. It's just the nature of the federal government and Department of Justice. But it's working. We have purchased 2 vehicle and 2 base station airband radios. The airband radio that we have in the operations area works for the most part. 2 of the vehicles, you've got to cross your legs, shut off the lights, hope that there are no planets in the sky, and sometimes they work. That's not going to work for us out there. So, and the other thing is a base station in my office to where I can actually hear what's going on. So that's in process, and we'll install all that. We have somebody who's queued in to do that. I continue to research the aircraft storage industry, the whys, the hows, the wherefores, and what people typically who want to locate a mom and pop aviation business, what they're looking for. So as I talk to different people, I'm getting information in regards to that. As you probably have all seen out in the tie-down ramp, we have some airplanes that are paying tie-downs. We have others that are abandoned and the owners are dead. I won't say it's a mess, but clearly it needs to be cleared up. And we have one gentleman in one of our hangars that owes us probably about $10,000 at this point. That hangar's been locked down and locked off, but we don't have a policy. So Lisa's assisting me. We're going to put a policy together, one that's transparent. Once we have it, I'll bring it to you to share, so that when people are asking you what's going on, just sort of, yeah, when you don't pay your bill like over 3 months and you get notices and phone calls, then we sick teen on you. But again, I'll be bringing that back to run it through you all once we have something set up. Abandoned aircraft, another thing that ADOT pretty much manages, but a process where when we notice an airplane's been sitting out there, like the Mooney from Henderson, and nobody's been paying us tie down, and it's been like a year and 4 months, and we look up the register and it's not registered, what do we do? So again, just cleaning stuff up. Outfitting the pilot's lounge, that's an ongoing process. I believe we're working on some furniture as we speak. I've talked about some artwork in there. We will be setting up a meeting probably at the end of February with our legal folks, our city attorney, the legal folks down in Phoenix in regards to the Dross, talking about the construction management piece to this, which is where things sort of went to hell in a handbasket the last time around. There was none, which is why we ended up with about an inch of asphalt, no base. So part of the premise here, once the cleanup is done, is okay, this is the design, we'll have somebody on site, and we won't, if we make mistakes, they'll be new. They won't be repeats. I'm tired of repeats. The holiday decorations, those have come up and down. And again, you note that the last couple of years, we've been putting lights on the tower, and we're going to continue
Look
that.
good.
Yeah,
That
which I
did.
think is,
I like that.
it sets a nice tone. Gate combination changes, haven't done anything on that yet. Airport stormwater plan, I'll have a site visit, I believe, Wednesday. And we'll be visiting with some of our tenants, and I'll be giving a tour of the airport in regards to that process. Last council meeting, or the council meeting before, no, it was the last one actually, went to the city council, and so we've transferred some funds from the cleanup of the 16 acres into fund the stormwater plan, which we didn't have in the budget, a 15 kV regulator for taxiway delta, I'm going to call it a fence terminal project, which is a bit of landscaping and removing the fence to where the building is the fence, which will open things up and give a different feel to the facility. And then the cost of demolishing the shock center, all but one building. One building's full of vermiculite. We're not going to touch it. It can become a shop or whatever. Everything else will go away. The ARF vehicle is being assessed by the fire department, the premise being that we can use it for airside stuff as well as industrial. They continue to bother an outfit in Las Vegas, I believe, in regards to the cost to get it back up in service. Just did a reminder phone call on this morning, so they're shaking the tree on that. We have developed a base agreement, and I'll speak a little more to this in a little bit, in regards to aircraft storage and teardown. The Frontura Group, those are the folks out of Lubbock. They will not be scrapping any of their CRJs here. They will be getting all of those flying, taking them down south of the border and making them into freighters for car parts going to Detroit. So that's at least 10 airplanes that will be going to them eventually, probably about one every other month. The Fillmore Group, I need to do up an agreement for them, but they're going to scrap 2 CRJs. It'll be over in that ramp area where the C-123 used to be. The Walter Group contacted me last Monday. There are 2 MD-8, well, there are 4 MD-80s out in the scrap area, 2 of which will never fly again, one of which they want to transfer the seats from it to another airplane, make it airworthy. So they want, I just sent them out an estimate today of what we would charge for leasing 150 by 225 foot part of that ramp where the C-123 used to be. I think they're turnaround 6 months, and they want to move 2 of those airplanes, God willing, the creek doesn't rise, from their current location over to there, swap parts from one to another, scrap one, and fly the other one out. So we'll see if that goes anywhere. Ameriflight, I believe I will have a visit from them on the 20th, which is a holiday, but I'll come out anyway. And they want to park, I believe, 10 Metroliners because they don't have pilots to fly them. So at least initially where we'll stick them is part of the ramp that's over by Straubbe's. Again, given the wingspan of those airplanes, I can do 1 tie down, and I'm using up 2, but again, we're only going to charge them for 1, and then another, and then another. But again, we have more than enough space for 10 of those. And again, I'll get more into a relocation of that use here in a little bit. As you've all probably noticed, both on the ground and when you've been flying, we've gone out and mowed hundreds of acres out there. And you can actually see the landforms now. And we're finding drainage areas that haven't been seen probably since the end of the Second World War. We're also finding all sorts of tie-down, chain link fence, and other stuff that's been out there for decades. And as we find it, we rip it out. But, yeah, the fact we're actually finding drainage areas that have filled up with silt that we didn't even know existed is kind of amazing. I'm in the process of researching a poster idea. There's an outfit, Victory Girl, out of California. The president I know from the American Aviation Historical Society, of which I've been a member for a number of years. She does this as a business dynamic, but she's probably produced, that I'm aware of, 7 or 8 posters. They're typically all vintage 1930s stuff or what I'll call tasteful pinup girl sort of things for different airports. Chino's one of them, Cable's another, Redlands. I'll meet with her and we'll see if there's some opportunity to do a poster or maybe a couple in regards to Kingman from a marketing standpoint. Maybe one from the 1930s with a connection to Route 66 and one from the military aspect when it was an air base. So working that through, and again, I've sucked poor Tim into this dynamic as well. In regards to hangars that are occupied, 51 at present. We have 3 vacant hangars. Of course, the tie downs, nothing ever works, nothing ever changes on the tie downs. And actually, if I recall correctly from memory, 1 person sold their airplane and 2 moved out of the area. So those are the vacancies. And the wait list at present, 2 for executive hangars, 1 for the T hangars, and 6 for the covered tie downs. So again, nothing's changed there. And leasing and developments, again, the 5 acres, I'll be working with Public Works to get the millings removed. I need to come down to City Hall here and be a pest with our surveyors and see if there's a survey for that site. I believe Laren wanted to lease it years ago, so I think there's an existing survey. It's just finding it, as opposed to having them come out and do another one. Security, no issues there, which is nice. They have a new agreement into us. I think it's up by, what, about $5 or $6 a month or something like that. And that would be for the coming year. So we'll be working that through, and I'll be putting something in the budget to that. We continue the environmental assessment for the 1,800 acres. We've had a couple maps come in. We've reviewed them, and now it's the next step of talking to the FAA and trying to set up a meeting to where we'll go back and forth on that. And then you'll notice that we continue to have trees that disappear. And we'll start to expand that out down a couple of the roads where we have Charlie Brown Christmas tree dynamics out there. Cama Mixer, I'll mention that. It's going to be this Thursday. I believe it's at 5 or 5:30, the 16th, out at the airport. So that'll be going on.
In the firehouse.
In the fire bay, yes. Yep. And that's it from my report. So any questions? Yes, sir.
You mentioned that you found a number of tie downs. I'm assuming that it's out in the dirt.
Yes.
Could those be used for any of these aircraft that are coming in, or do they specifically want them on asphalt?
I don't want to use 70-year-old 1-inch thick cable that's rusted.
They're still probably stronger than some of the
There's no doubt, yes.
some of the much newer chains.
Does that mean this was just like a cable
Yes.
affixed to the ground, stretched out, that
Yep.
gets tied to?
Yep.
Okay.
Did you find any aircraft relic stuff out there?
And that buried B-17.
Yeah, no, the B-17 continues to elude us.
I heard that.
I suspect
today.
it's out in the dump if it's anywhere. No, nothing of that nature. This is all unrecognizable scrap as opposed to parts from radial engines and other things that you occasionally come across.
I have a comment on one of them. You mentioned the Ameriflight those airplanes are not here for repair or scrap. They ran out of pilots.
Right. Yeah.
So they'll be stored and put back into service, and I think it's interesting that, that's the reason they're here. And a little bit good news on the aviation front. Southern Utah University just got the FAA approval to start their A&P school. So 5 semesters from now, there'll be A&Ps coming out.
Couple of comments. One, the Christmas lights on the tower were a nice touch. Everybody seemed to like that I've heard from. I saw this in last month's report, but I see it again today on the fuel flow numbers. Both the month for avgas in particular that sold the most for 2018 and 2019 was October, which I don't think coincidentally was the same month as the Airfest. The jet fuel's all over the place, but the avgas spikes each October for the last 2 years. So it may be a very small thing, but it is a thing,
Yes.
a benefit. This weekend on the island, when you come into the airport, which would be Mojave Airport Drive and Route 66, there's a concrete island there with some
Yes.
dirt and plants in it. There was a tattered, torn up old piece of furniture placed there. I saw it Saturday and I thought, I'm going to do something about that. But when I came back Sunday, it was there. So I stopped. I'm the person that relocated that chair. I don't know if this was brought up today. It was in the back of the city dump truck. I placed it there. So if somebody finds it there, that's how it got there.
All right.
Yes. I did not wish to put it in the dumpster and then have people report me for dumping my old furniture in the
Pilot's
airport.
Lounge, Pilot's Lounge.
Yeah. So it was an odd thing to be sitting there. It must have fallen off of a truck or
Well,
something.
it's interesting because it moved from Saturday to Sunday.
It did, yes.
Which was kind of strange. It was next to one bush, and then the next day it had moved like 4 bushes.
So, yeah, if nobody's found it yet, it is in the back of the dump truck.
Yeah, different panhandle.
Anyway, that's all I have, but thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I do have one thing. Steve and I have had a bit of a disagreement on this, and he did mention it as you look out from the restaurant or even the Care Flight trailer, there are gopher mounds everywhere. I mean, they are multiplying fast and the holes are fast. And I sent him contact for a guy who really knows how to get rid of them. You might have seen it on the internet. He poured gasoline in the holes, lit it off. And his backyard is 6 feet wide and 3 feet deep, completely gone. So he knows how to do it, but Steve wants to use the park department. So I don't know which is gonna happen, but I think we'll get rid of him. He has assured you that he can still do it, right?
One question, if you will, on the Ameriflight. Are they going to want hangar space or whatever to be able to work on them? I mean, storage, typically they're just going to be store them, but are they going to redo them? Or are they going to want hangar space? Did they say anything about that?
Actually, being somewhat sensitive based on the current situation with the outfit that does store airplanes, anytime somebody contacts me, the first thing I say to them, I don't ask, is that Kingman Airline Services is here if you need any servicing. The response I typically get has been less than stellar, and I won't take it any further than that. No, he made it very clear. Well, it's interesting. Initially, he said that they just wanted to store the airplanes. And now when I meet up with him next Monday, he was saying something about they might need some servicing as well. So it'll be interesting to see who he selects to do that, or if he elects to have somebody basically come on site and do it. So we haven't gotten there quite yet, but it is interesting that it's morphed a little bit.
Steve, do they have the same type of requirements on their, say, if it's long-term storage, like, say, Boeing, where they have to do a lot of particulars to it each month or week?
I don't know. I know with the 737 Maxes, and this was from the visit to Roswell, they do have to exercise all those systems. And I believe if it's not the airlines, in this case it was American, it's a sub to them. And there's a pretty sizable cost to that. In this case, I'm not sure, since these are air freighters and quite old, if I can't imagine they would be held to that same high standard. But again, I don't know.
What model are they?
These are the Metro Fairchild Swirlinger.
Okay.
So these things, Horizon used to fly them, probably 15, 20 years ago?
Yeah.
And now they're just air freighters.
That's all Garrett engine stuff, right,
Yes.
Steve?
Yep.
I mean, thought, yeah. All right, thank you.
If they're in active storage, Boeing's documents are about this thick, and it's active, inactive, and then the active, they've got to run everything so often, they got requirements, and then they got to fire up the electronics and make sure they all, yeah, it's a lot.
Other points? Okay. Old business, airport website. We got a little information from Lisa. Do you have anything to add to this?
Just only to add on what Lisa's already presented, Bennett and Lisa reached out looking for information regarding the Airfest, because they'll be linking to that with some information. That'll be forthcoming soon. And then regarding Facebook, Lisa also was kind enough to both share pictures to the city Facebook page from the master plan meeting that was last month, I believe, and also was kind enough just to notify me that it happened. So, and that, I think, moving forward when we start sharing information, that you'll be probably our conduit, at least for contact on that. So that was agreed last meeting, that for the next few months, we were gonna try that route and see about getting things to the city's Facebook page. So we're just kind of in a holding pattern on those things for now, and anything that anybody wants that things should come up on the city website from the airport, Lisa is the point of contact to help us get there. So just keep that in mind.
Okay, comments on that? Okay, mission statement. There's another one in the packet. Make a choice. We can expand one, distill the other one, combine the two, throw it all away, which I would not do. I think we really need to be on the page that the city council is aware of, and if they don't like it, they'll ask us to change it. So we're all pulling oars in the same direction.
I would add to that the way I look at this is as the facility transforms, we're going to readdress this. So from my standpoint, this is good for a year, or maybe more, but as things happen at the airport, I would tend to think you'd all want to have it adjusted. So I wouldn't say this is a static item at all.
Put an expiration date or review date that's part of it, I think would be a very good idea.
Where did this sample come from?
I made it up.
Okay. Thank you.
I took Carl's initial, and then I downloaded, I think, 5 other general aviation airports, and then looked at what their focuses were, and then thought about our focus, and then just ran with it.
Okay, so my question is, in my experience, I've seen mission statements as a paragraph or two. I haven't seen one quite like this. Would it be our intention to display that and refer to it in this mission statement paragraph, key strategies and objectives bulleted form?
My thoughts were the strategic strategies basically are the mission statement, The objectives, that's sort of down the line. That's not something you'd have to have right in there, because as you put it, it does make this a little, I won't say obtuse, but it makes it too long. So the objectives are just hopefully how you're going to get to the key strategies. So the key strategies being the focal point.
Well, personally, I like this. And in my mind, if we lived with that first paragraph and the 5 key strategies, but either within those key strategies, maybe one more bullet, in line with identified objectives. And then if anybody wanted to research, then we could have this list of objectives be in the record or on the back of the page or something. Because I read through this and I don't find anything that's in conflict of what I believe we want. And I think everything here is things we would support.
The one that we considered before is when I put together from the meeting with all of the city commissions, and that the objectives that the city council had from surveys of people. In other words, they took a survey and said, okay, this is what the people want, this is what we want, and I applied that to us. And my thinking was that when we try and do something, we recommend something, either spending money or changing of something, that we put those objectives from the city council within our discussion of the project.
Right.
So we're clearly saying we're trying to meet the council objectives.
Right.
And
Does this contain enough of those,
yeah,
in your opinion?
To be honest, I didn't try to integrate the two. I really want to see what everybody else thinks.
Well, there are 2 separate things that we're talking about here, similar but separate. When I asked this question at a prior meeting, probably a few months ago, the first time it came up, my understanding, we were writing a mission statement for this body right here. This is a mission statement, looks like framed for the airport itself. And those may be very differently worded topics, because as mentioned back then, I'll have to find those minutes, but I thought it would help frame the body of people up here, the type of experience and expertise that is used to support these other things. So this looks like it's written for the airport specifically, for the facility and management of the facility. But like I said, when I brought this up before, who exactly does this represent? I was told it was the people that sit up here to advise on behalf of the council. Those were all kind of important points if it's supposed to be on the commission. So they are 2 separate.
Yeah.
They're 2 separate but can be supportive documents, but they are
Yeah.
different things.
Probably I should have looked at this, but I wanted you guys to put some input in here, and it may be that you don't have a copy of this one when you were reading the new one. It would have been in the minutes in the past.
Well, I just got a sense that everybody thinks we're talking about the exact same thing. They are 2 different mission statements that have been discussed now.
To me, the key thing is doing what the council wants us to do, and complying with all of the FAA and legal requirements that we have to comply with. But sometimes we're going to have council members that want to do something we certainly have in the past. They're clearly outside of what we're allowed to do. So we've got to catch that at this level or earlier. And I have to say, I met this last week with Bennett and Gary and went over this much legal stuff that I had accumulated over the years that involved the city and spending money and diversion and all kinds of other things. And they absolutely understand we've got to fix the problems and we don't violate that stuff again. The problems are not huge, and a lot of them are not even the city's problems, but we do have a dump out there past the one hangar, and we have some other cleanup that we have to do, but it's not drastic. And it's just, if we have a city manager and an economic development guy that is totally outside of those objectives, we've sure gotta have this group to pull on the reins. So, I don't know what you wanna do from here. We can adopt this one, I have no problem with adopting, the one in the packet.
Well, Bill, you're head of designing something, and I'm not sure how this all fits together. I guess that's why I'm asking, because you're commenting on what's presented here today, but is there separate work in
No,
progress?
I did not look at it as being two separate mission statements. I believe that the mission statement for this body should be identical to the mission statement for the airport, because we are the airport. We're,
No, I agree.
you know, we are the directing body for the airport.
If he can take action, we can only make
Exactly,
recommendations. Yeah.
exactly, but
Shouldn't we be far-sighted vision? They're gonna take care of the day-to-day. I mean, look at
Sure.
So
Well-
our statement should be further looking along with the compliance.
okay, I see that point. So perhaps we should take the list of the things that the city spelled out at the meeting you're referring to and combine some more specifics of that in a format similar to this.
Okay, we have the one right now. Lisa, can you send out the other one, proposed mission statement that's in the minutes to all of the commissioners? And then let's,
You mean Janie?
Huh?
You mean Janie?
Janie or Lisa, either one. And then at the next meeting, let's really do it
Yeah.
and put it all together?
That's a good idea.
Okay. Do we need a motion to defer this till next month? Okay.
May I ask a question, the specific, what is it? What is the target now? Because they are different things. If we discussed it earlier, and what we talked about earlier was one thing, now we're talking about something, if we're combining them, I mean, I need to understand what we're trying to do here.
Well, the body was not, we talked about the actual language or the way it was presented. And we were talking about massaging it or rewording it. Now we're presented with some great ideas that we can include with it while we apparently individually come up with what we believe would be sufficient wording and language.
Okay, again, like I said, there was a specific point that I brought up a few months ago when Carl first brought the subject matter up. I said I wanted to understand it because I was looking at writing something for it. Now we've kind of morphing that into this is an airport mission statement solely? Or
No, I
what?
think that got shot down. I think Scott said that, no, our mission statement is going to be a little more future-looking, and then the airport may develop their
For
own.
the commission, and then
Correct.
we can write a mission statement.
Because I believe they both need one.
Right.
Okay,
They could be very much complementary to each other, but they're, in my mind, they're two separate things.
okay. And you
So-
sold me on that.
Yeah.
I believe what our mission right before us is to table this until next month and work on the commission's mission
good.
statement.
Excellent, thank you.
I mean, I take the last one here, effectively manage licenses and leases. We can have input on that, but we're not gonna
Yeah,
do it.
right, exactly.
So the objective can still be the same from that office and here.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a motion to table it?
I'll make a motion to table it for further review till next month.
And I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Aviation businesses. Do you have anything to add to that?
Other than what I had in my report, no. I mean, as I'm talking to different businesses, basically, one of the first things I do is, okay, so why did you locate where you located? And when you located there, what were you looking for? And then based on that, getting a sense of possible items that we need to address. Again, it's I mean, the newest business has been, I think, in Mojave County for what, 15 years or 10. But nonetheless, trying to get some sense of what people are looking for beyond all the projects that we have in line to basically improve the facility to get people to locate here, hopefully.
What we've learned is that airports don't market. They wait for somebody to walk in the door. And we can't wait that long. So this is a kind of a new exercise in figuring out how to do it and what to do. The aircraft storage business is really a bid operation from the leasing companies. That's what generates the desire for it. Leasing company gets the plane back, they gotta do something. So they put out the bid, at whatever level of storage they want, and you know, maintenance or whatever, and what kind of conditions. And so there's, well, or is the city gonna be in the airport storage business? Hopefully not, but we've gotta have, that's who's between the rent payer and us, is somebody in that business. And so if finding them and contacting the leasing companies, let them know we've got acreage here for storage. We don't have a storage company other than Cassie if they've already decided they don't want to deal with Cassie. And if they do, that's fine. But that's kind of what we're up against on direct aviation maintenance businesses. More than likely, it's a specialty business that's going to be here for some reason, combination of the advantage that Kingman has that other airports don't. So finding that business and letting them know we're here is the marketing job that needs to be done. And a lot of this is, Steve has certainly learned very quickly, things happen because of word of mouth. So an awful lot of what happens is word of mouth. Anything that we as commissioners can do when we're out flying around, that it can, who knows what it can lead to. But it's that's how things are going to happen. I mean, an ad will generate a phone call, and then something else happens from there.
I agree with everything you just said. One of the other things I think we should maybe try kind of an experiment with is, let's look at places that we think there are businesses and airport tenants that may be thinking about there might be a better place for them to be. I'm thinking a lot of places in California, in particular Southern California, and just kind of strategize a little plan to go out and reach out and solicit businesses in those particular areas. Just take a little brainstorming, target it, and then come up with a little bit of a marketing thing saying, hey, why don't you come have a look, and then see what kind of feedback, whether we get calls back or people say they are interested or they're not, or maybe even get some visits from some business owners out of, like I said, right now I'm thinking of California. You guys may know other places, but that seems fairly unfriendly right now for
The last
business.
10 years, more than 1 million people have left,
Yep.
largely the producers.
So, but I would welcome
agree.
being a part of that if we could do just kind of a little pilot program to make a list of so many places, target them, put some marketing effort towards them, and see what kind of response comes back.
I think letters to them from the airport guides that list the airport aviation businesses. If there's a business that clearly wouldn't fit over here for some reason, then there's no sense writing a letter. But my guess is 100 letters would generate some real activity.
Yep.
And that's already been discussed, and it's what do you do first when the phone's ringing off the wall? I understand that. But we've got to do that sort of thing, I think, to get there. One of the problems that we're going to run up against, I'm sure, is, well, do you have a 60 by 60 hangar for us?
Certainly that's one of those things, but if you're in the business of sales and marketing, you don't go look for the reasons necessarily. You don't convince yourself there's reasons people don't want to come here. It's good to be prepared to respond to those questions. But from what I've heard so far, the value could be there simply to move, especially if they're renting somewhere. If they're renting or leasing an expensive facility somewhere, them leasing land and building could be a viable choice for them. That seems to be the case in multiple instances. So yes, that's true. The good thing is to have the answer, to come back with going, well, here's why.
Well, we know
And,
what the land is gonna cost, and, we've got a possible airport developer who's not been down here again, but that's gonna be his issue was more a bigger project for air freight. But, I wanna talk to him about just building a smaller building for an FBO, and what could he do so we can say, all right, this is what's available? And if there's a way to use investor financing, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think just, if you look at the track record, it's been many, many years since a new airport, a fixed operating business moved into the airport and set up shop. And more than a decade, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. And if we just got one company, even a shop, a satellite location to come set up, do business where they're going to build something, or if something becomes available to them there, that would be a huge victory for what all of us are trying to do, I think. And I'd just like to work with some folks up here just to figure out maybe some potential targets to go after and just kind of get a feel for how it works. What kind of questions come up that maybe we don't think of, and build from there. I can't do it by myself, but I'd love to be a part of it.
One of them I think we should look at is the cost of storing an airplane over there, hard costs, hangar rent, fuel, whatever else they have to pay versus what we can supply here, to come up with some fairly hard numbers, that something that can grip them, that say, okay, this is what we've looked at, here's how we came about it, here's what you're looking at difference. So if you have to fly over there, pick up versus being based there, crew costs, everything, kind of put it together in a nice package besides our land package, so we can market the airport and the land together.
And another critical marketing tool, letter's not going to do it alone. A letter's a supporting document. There's different things. You can contact them directly, or if you have a mutual contact, you can say, hey, so-and-so, we were talking about this and your name came up and we may have something for you. But also through emailing, putting a very, very short, clean introductory video in there that just spits out a few points saying, if you'd like to learn more, here's more information, or reach out to us. And it's very effective. That is the way companies are marketing now. And I can get the statistics, and maybe I'll bring that up, or I'll deliver it to Carl. There are statistics on the response rates to all the different types of communications. And letters just written or sent off to people that aren't waiting for it have a super low response rate. But there's strategies to go after that to improve your odds. So yeah, I'd really enjoy working on it if we can get a few folks. And it might be nice if we have somebody contact, I know people here know people, if we can get a contact to try to build some of those hard numbers and get somebody that's willing to just give us a few minutes of their time and say, yep, this is what it costs per square foot, this is what our fuel costs, any other taxes. I know that's hard to believe, they may have other taxes out there, but in California, it's all factors. And it'd be nice to get a real case study, kind of, even if not naming the source, just knowing these are real numbers, and then use that as part of the marketing.
I agree. I think one of the people that we should probably go visit is like an insurance company or adjuster that insures this stuff. They have a pretty good idea of what it costs to operate and everything. And then there's some of them that do businesses like mine that do both aircraft and aircraft-related businesses, and I believe they could give us some good facts, whether they charge us for it or something that may come up. But at least I'll pursue that end.
Yeah.
Even the big guys like General Electric and Pratt & Whitney and stuff, and the people that have the auxiliary power units and support equipment, look at all those guys.
There's a North Dakota, or not North Dakota, North Carolina has a $120 million building going in for scrapping 737s.
Wow.
And that's, there's a little bit of state aid, but not much, like 5 million or something. So that's, to me, that's not an ideal location, but
No.
it's, it's happening. Just some examples on what positions other people are in. I've got a friend that just signed an 8-year lease on a 55 by 55 hangar at Gillespie for $4,000 a month. And it's a good deal compared to what other ones would cost. And that's in spite of the fact that 40% of the airplanes in the last 10 years have left. Those of you who have been into Montgomery knows that most of the hangars are at Gibbs. Gibbs is not having a lease with the city since 2003. It ran out. And they wouldn't talk to him about a new lease. Well, they decided they're going to put it out to bid this spring, and he gave them the finger. Now, how would you want to be one of those tenants? Whatever you're paying, what's coming next? And it's not going to be good. So I don't know if that's happening all the way along in California, but if it is, there's going to be people looking for a home. Not just businesses, tenants too.
I recently went up to Williams. Williams has opened a new FBO. Williams has also got a avionics shop. And I don't think there's 20 planes in Williams. So it'd be nice to know why that airport was picked by those two businesses. And
There was no buildings there. There weren't any buildings when they got started, right?
well, there's some hangars.
Yeah,
They built those two buildings, the big ones.
the businesses had to build their own.
Yes.
Well,
Maybe
or the
they
city
picked
built.
Williams because it was centrally located to, I don't know. Because I don't see it centrally located to much of anything.
Well, probably Flagstaff is.
Flagstaff, Prescott, the Grand Canyon.
With our location with Route 66, I-40, I-111, I-11, 93, the railroad.
Las Vegas,
We got everything.
yeah.
Another piece to that, I believe it's Arizona Aircraft Maintenance, not on our field, might be getting the name wrong, Dave, but over at Havasu. If I recall correctly, in past conversations with Mark, he was saying that his region of airplanes that utilize his business, 19 states. So I think part of it too is looking at this in a broader context.
Well, and clearly his reputation helps him a great deal. And that's all word of mouth, as we've already discussed.
I'll tell you that there's airport business owner that's been in contact with an aircraft manufacturer out of Colorado, I believe. Scott's probably familiar with this. They are working on getting FAA certification on their electric-powered training aircraft, their two-seat aircraft, and their target market is schools. And there's been some discussions about setting up a charging facility, probably not unlike Tesla cars, but they're very interested in that concept. I believe the quote I heard was it would be the first such station in Arizona, which makes me think maybe there is something somewhere else. I'm unaware of where that is, or maybe I'm being too exacting with the words, but they're interested in the concept, and I believe there's local interest here. Parties have been discussing the ability to do that here. So that's one of them, and maybe that could lead to a service center or some other support for that. If it's successful, the aircraft business, new aircraft business is a dangerous field, so a lot of them don't ever make it to being successful. So there's a couple of us watching that pretty closely, and if they do get certification, at least they've heard of Kingman Airport, and they've heard from people at Kingman Airport that would be willing to welcome them and try to do some cooperative thing to support them. So that's one thing. that's on the radar, but it's all
If
kind of
every railroad
theoretical.
buys a bunch of them, we need charging.
Exactly. So, but that would also help put us on the map as kind of a forward-thinking thing. Electric aircraft are here. They're just not perfected yet, same as the cars and that, but it's coming. There's no doubt. There's more and more people working on electric aircraft projects, and I think it's wise that we keep an eye to that market as well, to that industry. But there's a lot of possibilities, and I think the mixed use is a simple thing for Kingman Airport. There's so much room. We have a lot of room there to do a lot of different things. So the storage is part of the menu, I think, because that's easy money if there is such a thing. And but we definitely need more business to come in. So I think, yeah, let's work on that. But there's a ton of possibilities out there.
And one thing I'd like to add, Steve, in all your marketing and everything like that, I've always liked the terminology of Kingman Airport being the gateway to the Grand Canyon. And the Grand Canyon's marketed all over the world, so I don't know if there's any way to work that in there somewhere, you know.
I think somebody has that already, but again, and I think Lisa and I have had this conversation in the past. We're marketing a locale. It's not just the airport. It's the livability here. It's living. How did I put it the other day, Tim? Living the dream. And it's the Wild West. It's Route 66. It's a nice place to live. I mean, it's all of those things combined. But you're right. We need to sort of look at it from a marketing standpoint, from a regional standpoint. It's not just Kingman, but it's, you know, when you want to go down and play at Lake Havasu, it's them. It's the Grand Canyon. It's Las Vegas. It's all of those things.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on that topic? Okay, the draft CIP for 2020.
Okay, in your packet, you will see with the city letterhead there, this is what I submitted to Finance roughly a week and a half ago. You'll note that there are 5 different grant projects. And again, the totals there, those are dollar amounts that will carry over into next year. So that's not current. That would be as of July 1. And again, you all have heard me say this before, but I'll say it again, and my apologies to that. FAA has bent over backwards to work with us. Most airports our size do not get 1 or even 2 grants at the same time, and typically it's over a 3 to a 5 year time frame. So the fact that they've stepped up to the plate, funded the master plan, they're going to fund the runway 321. ADOT's going to come at us with $200,000 for design on Bravo, a drain study on the airfield, and then taxiway B construction first phase. Again, those aren't nailed down yet, but typically when the FAA says they're on your ACIP, plan on it next year, unless there's some really major, ugly, life-changing change for them, that's going to happen. This is highly unusual. I have the shade ports in there for 250, and again, we'll be talking about that in a little bit. The environmental assessment for 1,800 acres. And again, the premise is the master plan, and that project will be done, if not the beginning of this coming fiscal year, shortly thereafter. And then you have all the local stuff. But you'll notice there are carryovers that I just haven't gotten to. Most all the local stuff is carryovers. But again, call me ambitious or call me stupid or what have you, but no, there's a lot going here. Some of the dollar amounts, I don't have numbers yet, like the Wi-Fi for the cafe, an extension of our existing drainage that's over by the Blumenthal hangar, which floods out every time we have a rain event. Again, I don't have an estimate for that yet, but this gives you kind of an idea of what I'm asking for. Again, I don't anticipate on the grant projects, if FAA or ADOT's willing to offer those at 90 or 95% funding, I don't anticipate the city's going to say no. But the other aspect that those of you who have listened to my Port Morals lecture on grant projects and project management, this isn't a matter of I give it to the engineers and I walk away. This is a matter of I am involved from the beginning to the end. I want to get my maintenance guys involved in regards to, so, you know, what kind of light will last 20 years? What don't we have to maintain to where once it's done right, we don't mess with it, we move on to other things. But yeah, you can see this for an airport our size, in our area, this is ambitious. But I wanted to share this with you to where you have a sense of it. Just overall numbers to give you sort of a sense of where this is at. So on this draft CIP, rollover and new grant projects. So these are all grant projects for this coming fiscal year. Almost $5 million. Local projects over $50,000 that roll over again next year, $500,000. Local projects under $50,000 that roll over that are new, $125,000.
Before we get to each individual item, I talked to Tina about the withhold on land sale money. This, we didn't understand it right. If the cash is in the bank and it's budgeted and passed by the council, so it probably has to be in the bank by March. It can't be spent the next fiscal year unless the council goes through special procedures. But it doesn't have to sit there for a year. It can, you know, as long as we don't. Now, a question that Steve and I were discussing, and we'll find out about, if we have let's say we have a large land sale pending, and we've got, you know, for $250,000, and we've got a $250,000 item we want to do. I hope we can do that as a contingency where if the land sale happens, the council's approved it. If it doesn't happen, they didn't approve it. So we could probably structure some things that'll work that way. But as he talked about in the very beginning, we don't have a sheet that says how much cash is in the bank.
Yeah.
We don't have what we need. And I'm going to talk to an accountant that knows something about the way the city does their books and say, is it possible to write a little program that would extract the information from the city numbers and create a balance sheet and an income statement on a quarterly and annual basis so we could look at this like a business? I don't know the answer to that. What we need to do is, as close as possible, come up with that.
I'll word it just a slightly different way. As I understand it, the bottom line is when we go through the budget process and we come up with appropriation numbers, in other words, placeholders. If there isn't an appropriation number that the city council approves, then you can't spend the money. So that's the key. Now, again, I don't know the comfort level of contingency or an appropriation number where it's not, I won't say guaranteed, but it's not like 80% certain that we're going to have the money. So that I don't know. But the key being you got to have an appropriation. City council has to approve it. If that's the case, then you're good. But again, that's a once-a-year timeline, unless we go through going to the city council in a special situation.
If we have the money, we still can have a contingency for little things that come up. And that was, you know, it just didn't happen last year. So some of the things where we've been taking money from other accounts and delaying them, we shouldn't have to do that. And that's just a matter of doing the presentation right. And I think probably a little cooperation from finance and city manager to help us get it right on how it's presented.
Mr. Chairman, I I need to clarify what you said because I'm not sure I caught all of it. Did I hear you say that the city finance cannot produce a document that says how much money the
No.
airport has?
No.
Okay,
We've just-
where did I go wrong?
We've just never got it. I don't know how it's in their computer, but obviously that's an important number for us.
Yes,
But I've never seen it come out in my paperwork.
but I thought you said Tina said they cannot provide it.
No, I don't believe that at all.
Okay,
I believe it's just the steps that have been taken to get what we need out of finance. I mean, it's all public information, so, it's obtainable.
it's public information if they have it.
Oh, yeah, but they know how much we have in the bank.
Okay.
Because they run this as an enterprise account.
If I may, and add to that, part of the dynamic here is the reports that I've been giving you since you've all been on the commission. Those are based off of, before I got here, I've not modified those. I plan on going and sitting down with Tina and basically saying, okay, from the standpoint of a mainstream business, not government, how can we form these to where when I present the numbers to you, they make sense?
Good question. I'm glad we didn't continue on with another misunderstanding. Any more questions?
I have one. On this is basically CIP projects, new projects that we're going to be on. What's our maintenance budget? I don't see it as part of the big picture. Is this just for new projects that we're looking at on the CIP list, the listing that we're looking at here? Because I'm still on AMPS. The state gives us what we need to do. Maintenance is part of that. That we need to address, and I guess that's my query.
And in answering that question, the list you have before you is new. In regards to maintenance, we are just, and I hate to admit this, just this year starting to track, I won't say from a money standpoint, but from a project standpoint, what we're accomplishing from a maintenance standpoint.
How
And a
does
lot
that
of it-
follow the state guideline? You know, they give a whole, you go onto the website and they've got everything the red needs work, maintenance, local maintenance. We need something put up to what we have going on and what we need to fix it. I mean, that needs to be accomplished. That wasn't accomplished by the prior administration. That's been one of the things been in my craw. I want to see it happen.
And the APMS data that you have a copy of there, that's how we come up with all these projects, and basically we're doing the worst first. That doesn't mean that we're not going to maintain, i.e. crack seal some of the cruddier areas. Drainage is a key with this, which you all know, anybody who's been out the airport, when we have a rainstorm and the water is basically eroding pavement. But no, the maintenance piece of it, this is not a matter of we just go out and get new. That's one of the requirements of the FAA is, and they've not pushed us because I think they see that we're maintaining things, at least in the last year or so. But that's one of their key grant dynamics is they will not give you a grant unless you can prove to them that you're doing the maintenance. And that was one of the things that Havasu, we were just starting to do. And again, typically FAA moves a little slowly, so the fact they told us 2 years ago means it'll be 4 before they actually start asking in the ACIP meetings, okay, give us a list and costs of what you've maintained. How many tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars have you put into crack sealing? Or have you put into, and one of the projects here, which is the holdover, the taxi lane pavement preservation. So that's what I'm going to call, and we don't have a name for it yet, so I'm making this up as I go along. Taxiway, taxi lane, Foxtrot. That's the taxi lane that goes out by EAA, goes down by Paul Gaines' business, some of which is pavement, some of which is concrete. The paved area, one of the things that we're talking about is putting a product called brewer coat over that so that and not the whole thing, maybe about 35 foot wide by however far we can do it for $20,000. We'll put that project down, and basically what that does is sort of glues all that aggregate that's now coming up. So every time Paul or anybody else taxis down there, they're getting prop strikes. That gives you 4 years. So I would equate that to a maintenance project, as long as you stay on the path and you don't go off into the draw site or something like that.
Are we going to come up with something in writing that addresses the state, that we address and addresses our needs, that we can all look at and comment on? I guess that's one of the things. I see the CIP listing, but I want to see the maintenance listing too. We need to formulate that, and then whenever they show up, like you said, we have it, it's in place, check, 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 we've gone down it. And that's what needs to happen in my book.
Scott, one of the problems was that no one kept track of how many man-hours went into tumbleweed processing, or we didn't have any weed spraying. We do now, so those hours are being tracked. So, the first kill is a problem. After that, keeping it down is much less, but eventually we'll know what it costs to do all this. But there's no history that gives us that.
Yeah.
I could put together
Even matter with weeds. This is strictly on the pavement, the PCC, everything like that.
we can put a maintenance list together of what we have at current. We're still developing that, but yes, we're working towards that.
Jim? Or John, one of you had something, no? Okay. Anything else on that? Okay.
Are we going to go over the CIP individually?
If you want, that's what I'm reason, yeah, any issue there.
I don't think we need to go over individually unless a commissioner brings a particular item up and we'll discuss it.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
On that note, in your package, you got a copy of Clear Built. We've got in the CIP 250,000 for shade ports. The Clear Built are Quonset huts with no end on it. We got an initial price, if you look at it, of $16,600, and that's for a hut that's 45 feet wide by 70 feet long. We could put 2 aircraft inside that. There would be a concrete cost and the assembly cost, but the 16.6 includes delivery. In their information, they say it's real easy to assemble, that it's just nuts and bolts. I'm sure there's some direction that go with it. We've had 6 people or 6 aircraft on our storage list or waiting list for shade ports now for, pretty much at least a year, maybe longer, probably longer. If we just got 6 shade ports, or maybe, I'm sorry, if we just got 4 Quonset huts, that would leave us with room for 2 additional, and we would accommodate the 6 people on the list. And we could do it for a lot less than the $250,000. I contacted this company, and the price that you have here of the 16.6 is because Sears backed out of buying one, and so they already got their down payment or deposit, and they didn't get their deposit back, so the manufacturer was giving us a little better deal. I'm assuming if you added 3,600 to the 16,600, we would have 20,000, figuring 25,000 with the labor and concrete ought to be close to enough. So we could buy 6 of those for 150, which is much less than we have in the CIP for shade ports.
What size are they?
70 by 45. The one thing that we would need to do is we would need to figure out a way to get $3,600 for the deposit for them to hold it. They said they would hold it until we had all the money, which would possibly be in the new budget coming up July 1st. There's been some complaint that these Quonset huts aren't real attractive. I agree. But it does look like they would satisfy the need and maybe even give better coverage for a shade port than we're currently used to. We could position them someplace else on the airport where they would run completely north and south, so there wouldn't be the shade overflow that we have where we currently have shade ports, because by 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, a good portion of the plane is in the sunlight. I don't know if we can figure out a way to get the $3,600 now or not. That seems to be a mystery as to how we can do that without approaching the city council.
How much are we saving?
About $100,000.
Well, that's kind of in the same ballpark as a grant participation.
Yeah, except the feds won't give us a grant for
No.
anything like that.
And I think as far as it looks very much like World War II anyway.
That's true.
You want to paint them green?
Oh, you don't want to paint them.
Does the manufacturer have any photos, or have they shared any photos with you of what they look like on an airport?
He didn't, but I
Installation.
can go back to him and see if he's got some.
Because I think you had mentioned in a past conversation that they did have these
Well,
at an airport.
on the list, when they show commercial, industrial, government, and military, there's a number of military and airports listed in that list, and that should be the last page you've got.
Here you go, Dave. You can go over to JFK and check it out.
In Jamaica, man.
Hey, Dave, how big is each one of these?
45 by
45 by 70, so you can put 2 aircraft
That would,
those in, just like we do in the shade ports now.
so to store 10, it would take up a lot more land space than a shade hanger would.
Yeah, it would. And we'd have to put some anchors in the asphalt or cement or something.
I think you've got to make a beam all the way down each side. You may have to tie it together on the ends. But you're proposing a concrete floor for it, right?
Well, concrete or asphalt.
I think they have a beam, like kind of what you're saying, they have a U-shaped beam on each side where it's just bolted to the concrete.
So you you could just put the footing in and then pave over with asphalt.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And what's the wind load on these?
That's a question I can't answer, Mike.
Oh, it's high. These are all. the
These are not
Quonset-
a total Quonset hut, but that's a
The
reason. to
county
build them.
is like 85 miles an hour and
This will
20
be over
pounds
that.
per square foot.
That's one thing they're all good for like that. The real question is, at a 6-foot level, what kind of wingspan, you know, your wing, you duck under maybe 5'5" or whatever. How much have we lost in the curve running that way? A lot of them, they'll run the flat sides up and then start curving them.
Well, this one does.
It shows some of those.
Yeah, it shows
Yeah.
some of them, but that, was
Is that
that,
not what we're getting?
I think it is. I think it's like up to 4 feet.
That's much
high.
more attractive anyway, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
besides
yeah, we
useful.
need to find that out, what exactly.
Al
that-
Jackson has a building similar to this. It came out of Canada, and he's very, very happy with that. Of course, he can't get any wind. He's got a 2-story building right next to him.
The curved ones are all curved down the ground. They're really annoying. You can't stack anything in cabinets or anything. But with the straight walls up, say at least 6 to 8 feet, that's makes it pretty nice.
I was told they could do that.
Yeah.
I came across this. I don't know if we can do it or not, but it seems a lot less expensive. And if it's less expensive, I think powers further up the food chain than us might be more inclined to accept it.
Well, we thank you for your research.
I was gonna say, even though there's what, 39, how much, $3,600? 30, you were talking?
36 is the deposit.
Okay. I don't think the go or no-go should be based on just whether or not you get that one. It's still, we're targeting what, around $20,000?
I don't disagree. I think if we got this one,
It's only one is the,
this one is this price, and the guy I talked to, this guy named Hap, said he would try to get the others at the same price, but he could not give me a guarantee. And agree, again, I don't think we should make the decision based on that price. That would just be a discount on one, and we could look forward to probably spending another $3,000 to $3,500.
So they may be around $20,000, maybe,
Exactly.
on
Yeah.
full retail price. Because they may sell that one, for one,
Well-
even if everybody wants to do that, that one may be gone. I don't think that's a decision-making point.
I
at all.
agree, it may
Yeah.
be, and he's called me twice to see if the commission has made a decision. I said, we haven't even had the meeting yet.
I'll call him.
Okay,
Ask them if we get a big discount if we put their name on it and a phone number.
Also, they can vary the lengths on that. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm not stating that 70 feet is too long, but if it was, it's what, every 2 feet, I think it says in here, 2-foot sections?
initially, this was a 60-foot long unit,
Oh, okay.
and I asked him what it would be if we added 10 feet. And the 10 feet was, I think, yeah, it wasn't a great deal. I think it was like another, $1,200, something like
Okay.
that.
Well, I think it's an interesting concept worth looking at further.
One of the issues that we're gonna have wherever we put them is, you're gonna have to have some power around there, or we're gonna have to put something in there. And you can't hang much from the inside, you know, and you're gonna have a leak if you just put a bolt through the top, put a light fixture. So, you know, how that gets done, I don't know whether you want the tenants to do that, or the airport should do it so that it's all the same and it's maintainable. I'm told from a friend of mine that put one of these up that you need 2 lifts to do it. Because you put a whole arch together, you lift it up, put it in place.
Tilt it up, yeah.
When it's not blowing, and then you bolt the next one to it.
Mhm.
And anchor it down in the concrete too.
Fork truck and a man lift, they're what they fork it up. Man lift gets in there and bolts it up,
Do
and
that,
you
yeah.
roll.
Yep, more than one way to skin that cat, but it does take some equipment. You're not gonna do off of ladders.
Right.
The location where very least, somebody's gotta have a battery charger once in a while, and you gotta have a restroom nearby.
Like
So-
we were talking on the shade ports, we could go with solar put a solar panel in the proper place and an inverter and a battery.
For something this cheap, would a porta potty work? And I'm serious. I mean, that's not the best solution, but we don't have too many places out there in the hinterlands where there's any sewer or water.
That would be something we'd have to discuss. You know,
Have to kind of lay it out.
I don't see where that should be something that would prohibit this.
No, but it may limit our choices on where we could put it.
Yeah. How close do they have to be to facilities?
Well, I don't know if there's a number, how far are you gonna walk?
How many minutes?
I mean,
Oh,
it's-
let's
it's-
see,
well,
he's good for 2.
It's a little bit of a walk from some of the various hangars we currently have.
No, I won't dispute that.
So,
But I think we have to consider that, even though it may not have been considered in the past to any extent. And I really like the idea of north and south, because that gives you the maximum. It doesn't give you the best on wind, but it's not the worst.
yeah,
You know, you got at least 30, 40 degrees off of the normal wind direction.
right.
One concern I have is, if I were gonna rent one of those, I think a question I'd be asking the landlord is, can I get a hold of that company and put an end on it with doors?
I have a couple comments. Number one, we're trying to market our airport. I don't think we should have any discussion about porta potties.
Yeah,
I don't think we want to start putting up World War II style buildings and then try to market our airport. Now, this is a cost-effective alternative, and we need shade hangars. These shade hangars would be a different class of a hangar than our current shade hangars. These are like somewhere between a shade hanger and a T hanger, because they're almost enclosed.
Yes.
Like you said, unless we put in walls up, and now we have some very cost-effective enclosed hangars. But that still doesn't take away from the fact that these are Quonset huts. If we cannot get the city to see our vision of modern T hangars, as is in the CIP, I think then this would be something we would want to pursue if we got shot down again on our real T hangars. And then, shade ports, thank you for correcting me, shade ports. And if we got the shade ports as they're on the CIP, proposed CIP, we could put them near the others and it would be very attractive. If we get shot down and the city doesn't see our vision and our recommendations, which is what this body is put together for, then this might be a contingency plan we might shoot for and determine where we can put these, where they would match the existing facilities, which would be next to the paint shop or something like that.
Well, in that case, all we need is a footing, a column footing. We can put it right on the asphalt. That's not a problem. And that's relatively cheap to drill those holes and put in the concrete. And, you know, as much as I like the total shade as opposed to partial shade, Yuma has a whole lot of them. Phoenix are all over the place. And they get plenty of wind too. So, in addition to the sun. So it doesn't seem like the market is saying that's unacceptable to have partial shade. And my first reaction is, where do we put them? And I don't like the looks. But they're, you know, they may be better. But I'm kind of with you that regular shade hangers, like the other ones, you know, only columns instead of a cantilever, there's a market there now, so that's probably preferable. I don't know what our end cost is comparison. This may be a great deal, but I don't think we can make the whole thing based on one-time cost savings.
Yeah. And also remember, the shade hangers we proposed last year are what's still on the drawing table. We just removed the electric and the amenities to be put in later, hopefully. But we lowered them and made them 5 feet deeper to make them more effective shade hangers.
I was going to say, I agree with that point, though. They're not a total eyesore, but there's probably a proper place if we went with that style as opposed to blending. They just wouldn't blend, right? So I think it's still viable. It's just more thought has to go into where such a thing would go. What I've seen in a lot of military bases, there's been a huge uptick in covered parking for the aircraft. Yuma, in fact, Yuma was one of the first places I saw them starting to do that. But Nellis completely, they've covered a significant area of their ramp with shades.
March Air Force Base, too.
In March, I haven't been there in a long time, so I haven't seen that. But theirs are up on legs. So they have a steel roof that comes over, but their legs elevating them. And so they're kind of open, but it's a major thing I've seen. It's probably because of the cost of the equipment that's going into the newer aircraft and that they don't want them baking out in the sun. And it's cheaper than them building hangars for 100 aircraft also. So, but yeah, I still a firm believer something needs to be put in, but both of them are options. I like the original idea better. But again, if we can't have that, I think these have their own kind of, I don't know, there are benefits to this style that we're talking about now because of the mostly enclosed space. So it's not a total thing. I wouldn't put it right in front of the terminal or anything like that. It should be off kind of in its own little area. And there's been talk over the years about creating a T-hanger area down by Composite Solutions or Alpha Zulu Composites down off of Bravo, potentially somewhere in that area where that's where all your GA aircraft could fit into T-hangers. But I don't know if that's the right area, but something like that, a space dedicated for that.
We had good soil down on the end of 3.5 would be great, because then you're already lined up with 10 degrees. You just put it 10 degrees, just parallel with the taxiway. But there's absolutely no idea whether we've got good soil.
I didn't mean to imply that we would be putting them right next to the shades or anywhere like that. There's all kinds of places, as our chairman just pointed out, where we could put something that down by the end of 1-8 over in that area. We could put them over near the sheriff's hangar. There's a lot of land behind the sheriff's hangar if we wanted to bring put in asphalt or cement there. I know that you've considered putting a taxiway in there for that purpose as well. These don't have to be out where they're...
I don't think there's really a misunderstanding, but due to the fact they're very different kind of thing, I think it was just a point that came to people's minds.
And I agree. They're different, so you wouldn't want to put them right next to the shade and maybe find another spot. But I don't think we're going to get $250,000 out of the city, personally. So I'm just trying to accommodate the need in a less expensive way.
They're maybe very different, so to speak, but that's a very strong structure.
Yeah.
And they've been around for 100 years. And if we got a Ford tri-motor, it'd fit right in.
We need one for B-17.
That's pretty big.
Okay, I will work on both of them, actually. I'll see if I can find anybody locally that can tell me what it's gonna take in the way of footings for both of them. Because the manufacturers will give you what's frequently done, but it depends on the wind, it depends on the soil as to what you have to do.
I might be able to save you some help on that. I just recently built one of these myself. It's 70 by 30, but it's 18 feet tall, so a little taller. It has the straight sidewalls, and they give you two options, which are listed in this information. They have the option for a footing, and the buildings come with pre-engineered. So with this particular footing, it will give you this wind and snow
Oh,
load.
so he's got an Arizona stamp on, with the package?
Yes.
Oh, well, that's.
Yes, they will sell it to you with your state's engineering deal. So, but the footing's not included, but we talked about the additional money for footing and
It's easy to get
erection.
numbers to build that.
Yeah, and then they also have the metal, some of you call it beam, it's the side channels that you can use instead of a footing that is structured with a notch in it. So that's all already done, and it will come with the wind loads. So
Okay.
I'll save you that effort.
Thank you. Okay, commissioner terms, and, see, I think on your last page, I'm not quite sure, why this is in here, other than, if anybody would like to, yes.
I know why it's here, because we asked Janie to find this information and report it to us this
Okay,
meeting.
just when it, but a question is, and this would be certainly Gary and Steve's question. If anybody knows at this point, you want to finish your term and leave, please let Steve or Gary know. Because it takes a while to find somebody that has aviation background or construction or development background that is willing to spend the time. And we've got what, three that are up, four.
Three that are up
Three.
in December.
Carl, ultimately, this is a question, but would you not be ultimately responsible for reporting that to the council if somebody wishes to free up a seat?
I think that has, yes, that we sure, because the council ultimately are the ones that appoint it. But I know that staff will work on, here's a group to select from, and the council will go out to the general public.
That's what I was going to say, is they do make an announcement for filling a position.
But it's, I mean, Gary specifically asked me about this, we gotta start thinking about who we're gonna get on here. Because if you look at the other commissions, they're having a hell of a time getting anybody to even be there, let alone really bringing a lot to the table. And that isn't gonna work for the airport, so.
I may regret putting this on the record, but if they would listen to their commissions, they might get more participation.
Having been involved with this in other cities, where I can tell you about that city, but I won't say it applies here. Those are put together for political firewalls. Let the activists that want to yell and scream and fight go beat up the commissioners, and then, there's something between them. It's very much like the congressman. They'll write the law to stick it to you, and then pat you on the back and say, give me a nice contribution, and I'll work with the bureaucrats and get you some relief. Isn't that great?
Mr. Chairman, I've previously been on another commission, and typically your first time, if you want to stay on, the council normally would vote you back on. Now, every council is different. I understand that. To get on it a third term, I think it takes a supermajority of the council to do that. But if we let them know July, August, I think they'll be happy.
Well,
I'm just speculating.
yeah, if you don't want to, I'd appreciate you let people know so we can,
Yeah.
that we can work on that. But it's I think you're right that we get reappointed. Fundamentally, it comes down to, are we doing the job? And I can tell you that the feedback I've got, this is the shining light in the commissions. So,
I believe when they formed this commission, there was a record number of applicants for any commission in the city of Kingman. So that just tells me there were a lot of people watching what was going on at the airport and thought that they would step up and help. So it's a luxury to have that. I don't know what it would look like if they did that call again, if interest has faded or not, but you're right. Otherwise, I do watch the calls to the public for filling other commission seats, and it seems a real challenge for everybody else.
they started grading the land just next to me today for more room for pipe storage. And the construction foreman was out there, and I talked to him, and he knew about the grant programs that we had out here, and was very interested in what was going on. Now, he didn't, things he didn't know, but for somebody who has no interest in aviation, I was really very shocked that he knew what he knew. So I think that really confirms what you're saying. There's a lot of interest in, and well, I just had a visit from a industrial salesman out of Phoenix. Was amazed at the amount of industry up here, and what was going on. They hadn't been up here before. So there's I'm sure John Hanson at WCAMA is finding the same thing. As the city has been participating in water issues, railroad issues, I-11 issues, the interchanges, people in this state know who we are now. And that didn't used to happen. They just ran the city. And it's, I think a lot of good things are going to come out of it. Okay, any announcements?
I have one. I just wanted to reemphasize the comma chamber mixer on January 16th. And I wanted to let the commissioners know that there is going to be an exceptional sound company providing the music and PA system. Free of charge, by the
Well,
way,
that's wonderful.
which is becoming a trend I'm not crazy about.
That's what I like to hear.
I'm sorry, what was the location?
High Bay.
The airport administration office, 5:30.
Okay, yep, I do
On the
recall.
16th.
Actually, the fire station.
Yeah, the High
Yeah.
Bay there.
This is a joint with the CAMA and the Chamber of Commerce. And there certainly will be some of the office holders out there. A lot of business people will be there, both downtown and at the airport. And I've been to every one of them they've had, and I think it's very worthwhile because you get to have that conversation with somebody who doesn't know very much about something with the airport, and they want to know. You get a chance to talk to them. I've tried to make things work between the fire department and that covers the airport and the city fire department. And man, their cooperation together has now gone through the roof. Everything is really looking good there. So I think there is an opportunity to do some good. I don't know about finding a job, but the guy that hires help out here on like an employment agency, he'll be here.
I have an announcement. I was contacted actually while I was driving here today. The Army Aviation Heritage Foundation, which were our helicopter operators at the last Airfest, they contacted me today, and they told me when they put us on their schedule. So I had been in touch with them before, but tentatively for the next Airfest, it looks like we're looking at Saturday, October 10. And they are so eager to come back. They're the first ones really to try to set a date to it, which their reasoning, which is what I was looking at, is that would put our event directly between the Prescott Air Show and Apple Valley. So we'd be right between those two events. And we were already avoiding the first weekend, both because of Prescott and for the Rotary Club holds their Oktoberfest on the first weekend, and they didn't like it the first year we were doing the same thing.
So where's, ours will be the 10th, more than likely.
Right now, that looks like the most likely date will be Saturday, October 10. And our first museum group is already booking that date to be so. And they had one static display helicopter and one flying helicopter this past Airfest. They believe they will have 2 flying helicopters and 1 static display. They can't commit to it till it flies and gets signed up, but they have a UH-1 that was donated right about the time of the last Airfest. They were telling us that they had to go get it, a UH-1 to fly with the AH-1 Cobra that they've got. So, but they enjoyed their stay with us so much that they wanted to make sure they had a place at our next event. So it was good news. I think more will be following very soon.
Did you ever talk to Southern Utah about coming down to that?
We never did a follow-up after, basically, I believe you were at this table at the same time we were hearing that the management wanted a separate opportunity, educational opportunity to leverage for more students to come up there to make the decision to participate in our event. Initially, the questions were, what are you going to charge us to come to your event? And we said, if you bring an airplane, we're not going to charge you anything, and we'll provide you a table and whatever else you need to promote your aviation business, which is their school, which now is going to be an A&P school also, apparently.
Right.
So they were happy with that at first, and then they came back with, well, the director needs more than that, more than just doing your event. They want to coordinate with a school or educational group to pitch their school to. And the one challenge to that is most of the schools around here, I believe, are closed on Friday. And like they're looking for high school age or similar. So, you know, they said, well, maybe a field trip or a visit to a school the day before your event.
Yeah.
And it just became a challenge that we couldn't cope with that late in the game. So they were going to come down. I'd like to have them, but we need to, I guess they're looking for us to offer a program for them to kind of seal the deal. So we just weren't prepared to deal with it this past year.
Probably have to deal with both the fixed wing and the helicopter too. They've got that issue, as they've got them both. Okay, any other announcements? Anything for the good of the organization? Motion to adjourn?
Second. Or motion to adjourn.
Give him the motion and the second. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.